Good morning, students. So today we will discuss about antiviral drugs, part 1. Then tomorrow again we will discuss about antiviral drugs, part 2. So for now, today we will discuss about the classification, then what are the replicator cycles of the DNA and the RNA virus in the body, and drugs which are used for herpes infections and CMV infections. So we will discuss till that today. Then tomorrow we will discuss about drugs for influenza virus and hepatitis B and hepatitis C virus. So viruses these are obligate intracellular parasites. So they depend on the host cells for their survival, and out of the host cell they will not be able to survive. So the replication depends primarily on the synthetic processes of the host cell, like the energy generating, then the DNA and RNA replicating, and the protein synthesis machinery of the host cell. So they need energy from all the synthetic process of the host cell to survive. Other than that, they will not be able to survive on their own. So what is the structure of a virus? So there is a genome, there is a nucleic acid which is surrounded by a protein coat called the capsid. So this is a non-enveloped virus. Then we have some enveloped viruses which have an envelope surrounding the protein capsid, okay, which is a lipoprotein membrane. Okay, so these are enveloped viruses. So the basic structure of a virus, it consists of a nucleic acid which is surrounded by a protein coat called capsid, which may or may not be surrounded by a envelope. If it is surrounded by an envelope, it is an enveloped virus, and if the envelope is not there, it is a non-enveloped virus. Then let us see the replicative cycles of the DNA and RNA virus in the human cells. So let us start with the replicative cycle of the DNA virus. So this is the virus here. So there are certain specific receptor sites on the virus which get fixed to the complementary surface proteins on the host cell. So this big thing is the host cell, which we can see in yellow color, that is the host cell. So on the surface of the host cell, there are certain complementary proteins, surface proteins, to which the specific receptor sites on the virus, they come and bind. So that is the first step, which is written 1 here. Then the second step is the virus particle is taken up by the host cell by the process of endocytosis. That is the second step. Then after that, if the virus has an envelope that combines with the envelope of the membrane of the host cell, then only the capsid along with the genome is released into the cytoplasm. Then later the capsid also is removed, then only the genome of the virus enters into the host cell nucleus, where the viral DNA, it is converted into viral mRNA with the help of host cell RNA polymerase enzyme. That is the fourth step. Now in the fifth step, the host cell ribosomes, they utilize the viral mRNA and they synthesize the regulatory proteins and viral enzymes. Structural proteins and regulatory proteins, but initially regulatory proteins are formed. So the next step will be the regulatory proteins, they transcribe the early genes which is necessary for the replication of the viral DNA with the help of viral DNA polymerase. Now once this viral DNA is replicated, the late genes that are transcribed, they help in the synthesis of the structural proteins. So now all these structural proteins, regulatory proteins and viral enzymes, they are assembled to form the effective mature virus particle. Now this virus particle, it is released into the body of the host from the cell by the process of budding. So you can see the formation of a bud here. This ruptures later and there is release of virus particle into the body. So this is the replicative cycle of a DNA virus. Now let us see the replicative cycle of a RNA virus, which is almost similar to the DNA virus. but there are minor differences, so we will go through that. Now the first step and second step are the same. They come and attach to the surface proteins and it is engulfed by endocytosis. Now here in the RNA virus, there is a specific protein called the M2 protein. That is the third step. In the third step, what happens? The M2 protein of the RNA virus, it allows the influx of the H+ ions into the virus cell. Now here these H+ ions, what they cause? They cause segmentation of the ribonucleoprotein. They cause segmentation of the protein structure. So now what happens then? Uncoating happens and then the ribonucleoprotein segments, they are released into the cytoplasm in some viruses. But in influenza virus, the genome of the virus, it enters into the nucleus of the host cell. So now in this example, we are taking into consideration the influenza virus. Okay. So here we see that the viral genome, the viral RNA, it has entered into the host cell. Now this is converted into the viral mRNA by the viral RNA polymerase enzyme. So that is your fifth step. So once the mRNA is formed, the host cell ribosomes, they utilize the mRNA and synthesize the viral proteins. So the next steps are the same. The assembling of the viral proteins and viral enzymes to form the mature virus particle, which is released into the host by the process of budding. So here in RNA viruses, there is a specific enzyme called neuraminidase. So that facilitates the release of this virus particle into the host. So this is about the replicative cycles of the DNA and RNA virus. See, in RNA virus, everything is almost same as the DNA virus, except that there is an M2 protein which facilitates the influx of the H+ ions and causes segmentation of the ribonucleoprotein, that is the genome of the virus. So coming to the next slide, classification of antiviral drugs. So this is the classification: anti-herpes virus, anti-influenza virus, drugs for herpes virus, and anti-influenza virus and anti-hepatitis virus, primarily for hepatitis B and hepatitis C. Now let us see what are the drugs for herpes virus: idoxyuridine, trifluridine, acyclovir, valacyclovir, famciclovir, ganciclovir, valganciclovir, fomivirsen, cidofovir, foscarnet, penciclovir. So this is quite a long list. So once we discuss individually about each drug, you can remember the names better. Okay, so when we will discuss, we will just go through the names again. So anti-influenza virus, we have drugs for influenza virus: amantadine, rimantadine, oseltamivir, zanamivir, peramivir, laninamivir, and ribavirin. Then for hepatitis B, the drugs are interferons, edifovir dipivoxil, tenofovir, entecavir, and telbivudine. Then drugs for hepatitis C are ribavirin, interferon alpha, sofosbuvir, and boceprevir. Okay. So let us just go through the drugs for herpes virus once again, because today we will discuss about them. So idoxyuridine, trifluridine, acyclovir, valacyclovir. So if you remember acyclovir and ganciclovir, just add a val to both of them. Those are nothing but the prodrugs of acyclovir and ganciclovir, which after oral administration are converted in the body to acyclovir and ganciclovir. So remember acyclovir, valacyclovir, ganciclovir, valganciclovir. Then next you have penciclovir and famciclovir. The next ones are cidofovir, idoxyuridine, trifluridine, foscarnet, and fomivirsen. So let us go through the drugs one by one. So drugs for herpes virus and cytomegalovirus infections. Acyclovir, so this drug is prototype drug. We can say that this is the prototype drug. And let us see the mechanism of action. So if you remember this, almost most of the drugs in this group, they have the same mechanism of action as acyclovir. So mechanism of action of acyclovir is, this is converted into its active form, that is its triphosphate form, by depending on both the viral enzymes as well as the host enzymes. So utilizing the virus-specific thymidine kinase, it is converted to acyclovir monophosphate. That is the first step. Then utilizing the cellular kinases, that is the host cell enzymes, it is converted into acyclovir monophosphate and then to acyclovir triphosphate. Now this acyclovir triphosphate is the active form which inhibits the herpes virus DNA polymerase. It inhibits the DNA polymerase enzyme competitively. So what does it do? The DNA polymerase, it helps in replication of the viral DNA. So once the viral DNA polymerase is inhibited, it gets the DNA replication is inhibited, so the virus, it dies. And also it can get incorporated in the viral DNA and stops the lengthening of the DNA strand. So the mechanism is it gets converted into the triphosphate form with the help of the virus specific thymidine kinase and utilizing the host cell cellular kinases. Now this has a very limited host cell cytotoxicity because if this drug enters into both the cells, infected as well as the non-infected cells, but in the non-infected cells, this phosphorylation, the phosphorylation of acyclovir to its triphosphate form is limited in the non-infected cells, whereas in the infected cells, it is actively converted. So that is the reason the toxicity is limited only the cells infected with the virus. So that's the reason the cytotoxicity to the normal cells or the healthy cells is less. Then one more thing is the viral DNA polymerase is, it acts more effectively on the viral DNA polymerase than compared to the host cell DNA polymerase. So these two reasons are responsible for decreased cell cytotoxicity in the humans, okay, or in the healthy cells of the humans. Then what are the reasons for the resistance? The first step is thymidine kinase is the viral enzyme which is facilitating the conversion of acyclovir to acyclovir monophosphate. So mutation leading to decreased thymidine kinase activity. So that is one resistant mechanism. And the next one is elaboration of a viral thymidine kinase with an altered substrate specificity. So here acyclovir is the substrate for the viral thymidine kinase. Now here the thymidine kinase is altered, so acyclovir does not act as a substrate anymore to the thymidine kinase. Then the next is the DNA polymerase. The acyclovir triphosphate which is formed, it also inhibits the DNA polymerase enzyme. So this DNA polymerase now develops resistance to acyclovir binding to it. Okay, so these three are the resistance mechanisms: decrease in the thymidine kinase activity, then elaboration of a viral thymidine kinase with altered substrate specificity, and DNA polymerase resistance to acyclovir binding. It is effective against HSV1, HSV2 and varicella zoster virus. HSV is herpes simplex virus. So in that we have two strains, HSV1, HSV2 and varicella zoster virus. Pharmacokinetics, only 20% is bioavailable. About 20% of the oral dose of acyclovir is absorbed. It is most of it is excreted unchanged in the urine because it is less plasma protein bound, and it is excreted unchanged in the urine. About more than 90% is excreted unchanged in the urine by glomerular filtration and tubular secretion. Then its plasma half-life is 2 to 3 hours, but this can be prolonged in patients with renal failure because it's primarily being excreted by the renal route. So if there is renal failure, then the plasma half-life is prolonged, that it stays in the body for a longer time. Otherwise, the plasma half-life is 2 to 3 hours. Then the uses: oral acyclovir, it is used in the treatment of herpes simplex 1, herpes simplex virus 1, herpes simplex virus 2 and varicella zoster virus. Then parenteral acyclovir, it is used in the treatment of chronic and recurrent mucocutaneous HSV infections, then VZV infections and herpes encephalitis. Acyclovir ointment, it is used in early genital herpes. Then ophthalmic acyclovir ointment, it is used in herpes keratoconjunctivitis. So it can be given orally and parenterally and also topically as an ointment. So where it is used? For HSV 1 and 2 infections, varicella zoster virus infections, herpes encephalitis, chronic and recurrent mucocutaneous HSV infections, then genital herpes and herpes keratoconjunctivitis. Dose is 400 mg TDS or 200 mg 4 to 5 times a day. Adverse effects and drug interactions. See, adverse effects are written in red color. So no serious toxicity with oral or topical use. Toxicity is very less, as I said, because it is confined to the infected cells, whereas in the non-infected cells, because there are certain mechanisms, it is not causing cytotoxicity because phosphorylation occurs to a lesser extent in the non-infected cells, and also the DNA polymerase of host cells, it binds less to the acyclovir. So there is no serious toxicity as such. Then in intravenous therapy can cause phlebitis, rash and mild hypotension. Then drug interactions are, cyclosporin is an immunosuppressant drug. It causes nephrotoxicity. So cyclosporin, and there are other certain nephrotoxic agents like aminoglycosides. So they may increase the risk of renal toxicity when co-administered with acyclovir. Then probenecid, it inhibits the renal excretion of acyclovir. It is used, probenecid is used in gout. It blocks the tubular secretion of acyclovir. So it inhibits the renal excretion of acyclovir. So what happens again? It is retained. Acyclovir is retained in the body and there is increased toxicity of acyclovir. Then valacyclovir, it is an ester prodrug. It is a prodrug of acyclovir. Then after it is taken, it is converted in the body to the active form, that is acyclovir. So there is improved oral bioavailability. Oral bioavailability is more for valacyclovir when compared to acyclovir. So this is because there are peptide transporters in the intestine which actively transport this into the intestine, and then it is converted to its active form, that is acyclovir. Then drug of choice in herpes zoster, and it is also used in varicella zoster virus infections. And no IV formulation is available for this. The dosage is 1 gram BD or TDS for 7 days. Coming to the next drug, ganciclovir. So this is a hydroxymethylated analog of acyclovir. Mechanism of action and resistance pattern are similar to acyclovir. So you remember that, it's enough. The only thing you have to remember is that it is a hydroxymethylated analog of acyclovir, and how it is administered. Oral bioavailability is very less, so it is administered intravenously. So this oral route of administration, it can be preserved to prevent relapse. So you can give it to prevent relapse after the actual infection has been suppressed. Then following IV administration, where does it show higher accumulation? It accumulates higher in the vitreous humor. It is excreted unchanged in the urine, and plasma T-half is 3 to 4 hours. The spectrum and uses for treatment of serious and vision-threatening retinitis due to cytomegalovirus in immunocompromised cases. So retinitis due to cytomegalovirus in immunocompromised cases like HIV. Effective for the treatment of acyclovir-resistant HSV infections. Then prevention of CMV infection in organ transplant patients and in immunocompromised individuals. It is being used as an intravitreal implant for the treatment of CMV retinitis in AIDS patients. So it is mainly preferentially it is used in the treatment of CMV infection because this particular ganciclovir, it shows 100-fold accumulation in the cells which are infected with CMV. So that is the reason it is mainly preferred for CMV infections. So where it is used, retinitis due to CMV in immunocompromised cases, then in acyclovir-resistant HSV infections, for prevention of CMV infection in organ transplant patients and in immunocompromised individuals, and intravitreal implants are being used for the treatment of CMV retinitis in AIDS patients. The dose is 5 mg per kg BD, IV is the induction dose, then 5 mg per kg per day is the maintenance dose. Adverse effects and drug interactions, see, serious toxicity is high. Like bone marrow toxicity, there is bone marrow suppression, so there will be anemia, neutropenia, thrombocytopenia, so all the blood counts go down. Then it also causes rash, fever, vomiting, neuropsychiatric disturbances. But the most important toxicity will be bone marrow toxicity, that is bone marrow suppression. And in animal studies, it has shown that it is teratogenic and it is carcinogenic. So that is the reason, because of its toxicity, it is used only for prophylaxis and treatment of severe CME infections in immunocompromised patients. Okay. So unless the condition is very severe, do not prefer using this because it has a very high toxicity. It is used only for prophylaxis and treatment of CME infections in immunocompromised patients. So zidovudine drug interactions are zidovudine. Zidovudine is an antiretroviral drug. It's used for HIV. It also causes myelosuppression. So when you combine with ganciclovir, it potentiates the myelosuppression. Then cyclosporin. Cyclosporin is again an immunosuppressant. This has nephrotoxicity as its side effect. So ganciclovir, when given along with cyclosporin, it increases the nephrotoxicity risk, and ganciclovir increases diadenosine toxicity. So diadenosine is again an antiretroviral drug. So it increases the diadenosine toxicity, whereas probenecid increases ganciclovir serum levels. Again, probenecid, it blocks the tubular secretion of ganciclovir. It increases the ganciclovir serum levels in the body and increases its toxicity. So the toxicity, if you see, the highest toxicity, the toxicity is very high for bone marrow. There will be bone marrow suppression, and the drug interactions important here are zidovudine potentiates myelosuppression when given with ganciclovir. Then cyclosporin potentiates nephrotoxicity when given with ganciclovir. Then ganciclovir increases diadenosine toxicity, whereas probenecid increases ganciclovir serum levels in the body. Then valganciclovir. See, this is an L-valine ester prodrug of antiviral drug ganciclovir. So this is again a prodrug form which after it is given orally, it gets converted to the active form, that is ganciclovir. So it is well absorbed from the GIT and it is metabolized to ganciclovir, which is the active form of the drug. Then bioavailability is about 60%. And formulation for IV use is not available. So this bioavailability can be further increased when it is given along with food. And oral ganciclovir is comparable to IV ganciclovir for the treatment and suppression of CMV retinitis in AIDS patients. So if it's ganciclovir, to treat a severe infection, you need to give it through the IV route. Whereas valganciclovir, it is enough even if you give it orally. So oral valganciclovir is comparable to IV ganciclovir for the treatment and suppression of CMV retinitis in AIDS patients. Then dosage is 900 mg BD is the oral dose for induction, then 900 mg OD for maintenance. Then the next two drugs are penciclovir and famciclovir. Penciclovir is a guanosine nucleoside analog that is structurally related to acyclovir. Even the mechanism of action is resistant to acyclovir. Uses with these drugs are far less because the strains which are resistant to acyclovir are resistant to penciclovir and famciclovir as well. Then penciclovir is available as a 1% topical cream. Then here again, since the mechanism of action is similar to acyclovir, this penciclovir or famciclovir, they are converted to their active triphosphate forms. So the active triphosphate form of penciclovir, it persists intracellularly in infected cells for a longer time. That's about for 8 to 20 hours. Then famciclovir is a prodrug. It is a prodrug of penciclovir. So it is converted to penciclovir during its first pass metabolism from the gut to the systemic circulation. So famciclovir needs dose adjustment in renal failure because it is primarily excreted in the urine. Then what are the uses? Penciclovir is used to treat herpes labialis. Then famciclovir is approved for the treatment of acute localized varicella zoster virus infections and in HSV1 and HSV2 infections. So the toxicity is fatigue, GIT distress, anorexia and headache. Then dose is orally 500 mg TDS for 7 days. See, penciclovir and famciclovir, these two drugs, you can read them at a time because mechanism of action is similar and famciclovir is it's a prodrug of penciclovir. So just remember where they are used. Penciclovir is used in the treatment of herpes labialis Then famciclovir is approved for the treatment of acute localized BZV infections and in HSV 1 and 2 infections. The point you need to remember is famciclovir needs dose adjustment in renal failure. Then coming to the next drug, cidofovir. So cidofovir, it is a cytidine analog. Then an active form here is the diphosphate form, and it is not the triphosphate form. So till now we have seen that the triphosphate form is the active form, whereas for cidofovir it is the diphosphate form which is the active form. So this inhibits the viral DNA synthesis. So its phosphorylation to the active diphosphate form, it is not dependent on the viral enzymes. It is dependent on the host enzymes. So it is converted to the diphosphate form by the cellular enzymes of the host. So it does not preferentially accumulate in the virus infected cells only. So this is important because it is affecting the normal healthy cells as well. So that is the reason cytotoxicity is more for cidofovir. It does not preferentially accumulate in the virus infected cells. And it remains intracellularly for long periods of time to inhibit the viral DNA polymerase, even though the plasma half-life is less. Even though the plasma half-life is about 2 to 3 hours, this remains intracellularly for long periods to inhibit the viral DNA polymerase. So that's the reason you can give it in IV dosing once weekly. Okay. Then pharmacokinetics, so oral bioavailability is less, so it is given intravenously, intravitreally, and as topical administration. Intravitreal is injection into the eyes vitreous humor between the lens and the retina. Okay, and so it is not metabolic, and significantly it is excreted unchanged in the urine. So what you have to remember is cidofovir is converted to the active diphosphate form and not the triphosphate form as the other drugs. So that point is important, and for its activation it depends only on the host cell cellular enzymes. Then because it stays in the cells for a longer time, even though its plasma half-life is less, it is given once weekly IV dosing. Then oral bioavailability is less, so it is given through the intravenous route, intravitreal route, and topical routes. Uses are treatment and prophylaxis of CMV-induced retinitis in patients with AIDS and HSV mucocutaneous lesions. Also used in acyclovir-resistant infections and for post-exposure prophylaxis against smallpox and for anogenital warts. Dose here is 5 mg per kg once in a week for induction. Then maintenance dose will be 5 mg per kg every 15 days. So that will be double of the induction dose. Okay. So double in the sense you take a double duration gap. The gap will be 1 week for induction. For maintenance, the gap will be 15 days. So you're increasing the gap when you're administering the drug. 5 mg per kg once in a week for induction. 5 mg per kg every 15 days for maintenance. So where it is used for CMV-induced retinitis in patients with AIDS and HSV mucocutaneous lesions, and also in acyclovir-resistant infections and for post-exposure prophylaxis against smallpox and for anogenital warts. Adverse effects and contraindications. Most important adverse effect here is nephrotoxicity. So it is a nephrotoxic drug. And other side effects are neutropenia, metabolic acidosis, uveitis, and ocular hypertony. That is decrease in the intraocular pressure. So because nephrotoxicity is more, you can co-administer it with probenecid and it will decrease the risk of nephrotoxicity for cidofovir. But probenecid again itself causes certain side effects like rash, headache, fever, and nausea. Then where it is contraindicated in patients with pre-existing renal impairment. So obviously because it is a nephrotoxic drug, and patients taking concurrent nephrotoxic drugs, other nephrotoxic drugs if they are taking, then it is contraindicated. This one, what is this? Cidofovir is contraindicated. Then the next drug is idoxuridine. So this is an iodinated derivative of deoxyuridine. Mechanism of action is similar to acyclovir, but additionally it also gets incorporated into the viral DNA and causes chromosomal breakage. Now this happens with the host cell DNA as well. So that is the reason this drug has again more cytotoxicity. Then resistance occurs due to inactivation by viral deaminase and nucleotidase enzymes. It is used in HSV infections of the eye, eyelid, cornea, and conjunctiva. The side effects are local irritation, corneal clouding, photophobia, and lacrimation. So this is an iodinated, it is there in the name itself, it is an iodinated idoxyuridine, iodinated derivative of deoxyuridine. Mechanism of action is similar to acyclovir. Additionally, it also gets incorporated into the viral DNA and causes chromosomal breakage. And resistance occurs because of inactivation by viral deaminase and nucleotidase enzymes. And also where it is used mainly in HSV infections of the eye. And side effects are local irritation, corneal clouding, photophobia, and lacrimation. Trifluridine, it is a trifluoromethyl derivative of idoxyuridine. Okay, it is again a derivative of idoxyuridine. So here the active form is the triphosphate form. It gets incorporated in the viral DNA and inhibits the viral DNA polymerase. Okay, so even though although it is more potent than idoxyuridine, it is cytotoxic because it inhibits the host cell DNA synthesis as well. It is used as topical ophthalmic solution for keratoconjunctivitis and recurrent keratitis due to HSV 1 and 2 infections. Side effects are, so it will be in the eye because you are using it for the treatment of eye, keratoconjunctivitis and recurrent keratitis. So the side effects will be transient burning in the eye, palpebral edema, then hyperemia will be there, and then there is increased intraocular pressure. So trifluoromethyl derivative of idoxyuridine, the triphosphate form gets incorporated in the viral DNA and inhibits the viral DNA polymerase. It is cytotoxic because it inhibits the host cell DNA synthesis. Then it is used as topical solution for the treatment of keratoconjunctivitis and recurrent keratitis due to HSV 1 and 2 infections. Then palpebral edema, hyperemia, increased intraocular pressure, and transient burning. So these are the side effects. See, cidofovir is causing ocular hypotony, decrease in intraocular pressure, whereas trifluridine is causing increased intraocular pressure. Then foscarnet. So this is a pyrophosphate derivative. It also does not require, see, till now all the drugs, they needed activation to their phosphate form by either the viral enzymes or host enzymes or both. Here foscarnet, its mechanism of action is slightly different. It does not require activation by either the viral or human kinases. It is a pyrophosphate derivative. So how does it act? It acts by inhibiting the viral DNA polymerase enzyme. And how does it inhibit it? By blocking the pyrophosphate binding site on the enzyme. It is used in CMV retinitis in immunocompromised hosts and acyclovir resistant herpes infections and herpes zoster infections. See, it has a higher affinity for herpes zoster DNA polymerase when compared to the host cell DNA polymerase enzyme. Then dose is 90 mg per kg IV, 12 hourly for induction. Then for maintenance, it is 90 mg per kg per day. So is it clear? It is a pyrophosphate derivative. It acts by inhibiting the viral DNA polymerase by blocking the pyrophosphate binding site on the enzyme. So it does not require the host or virus enzymes for activation. It is used in CMV retinitis and acyclovir resistant HSV and herpes zoster infections. The dose is 90 mg per kg IV 12 hourly for induction and 90 mg per kg per day for maintenance. So pharmacokinetics is, it is poorly absorbed orally, so it is given intravenously. It is dispersed throughout the body and it accumulates more in the bones and the aqueous humor, and it is excreted unchanged in the urine. Adverse effects again here are nephrotoxicity and electrolyte disturbance. So nephrotoxicity here, we can see that there is elevated serum creatinine levels. But if necrosis and nephritis occur, then that is almost irreversible. Then electrolyte disturbances which can occur are hypocalcemia, hypomagnesemia, hypokalemia, hypo and hyperphosphatemia. So these electrolyte disturbances, they can lead to neurological and cardiovascular disturbances in the body. It can lead to seizures and arrhythmias. So is it clear? This is important. Cidofovir and foscarnet are important. Okay. So nephrotoxicity and electrolyte disturbances are the important adverse effects. The last drug in this group, fomivirsen. So this is primarily an anti-CMV drug. Again, fomivirsen is used for CMV infections just like ganciclovir. How does it act? It binds to the mRNA. So the replicative cycle, what is happening after the mRNA is synthesized? The host cell ribosomes, they are utilizing the mRNA to synthesize the viral proteins and enzymes. So here it binds to the mRNA and inhibits the synthesis of the immediate early proteins necessary for viral replication. So here the mechanism is quite different from the others. So developing resistance to fomivirsen is rare. So drug, it selectively accumulates in the retina and in the vitreous humor. So used for treatment of CMV retinitis, mainly in patients with AIDS. Injected intravitreally for the treatment of CMV retinitis in patients with AIDS. The side effects are iritis, vitritis and increased intraocular pressure. So this is about the drugs which are used to treat herpes infection. So what are the drugs? Once again, just name the drugs. Starting with acyclovir, valacyclovir, ganciclovir, valganciclovir. Then we have penciclovir, famciclovir, cidofovir, idoxuridine, trifluridine, foscarnet and fomivirsen. So almost all the drugs, they have the same mechanism of action, rearing a few, leaving a few. So that is, they are converted to the active triphosphate form. Cidofovir is converted to the active diphosphate form. Whereas here fomivirsen is again, it's having a different mechanism of action. That is, it binds to the mRNA and inhibits the synthesis of immediate early proteins necessary for viral replication. So this group of drugs are mainly used for the treatment of herpes simplex infections and CM cytomegalovirus infections and also varicella zoster virus infections. So ganciclovir particularly, it is used mainly for CMV infections because it shows more accumulation in the CMV infected cells. So please go through the drugs which we have gone through today and be ready for the next drugs tomorrow. That is drugs for influenza virus and drugs for hepatitis B and hepatitis C. Thank you.